Welcome to Kangaroos, the podcast. Good morning, Rachel. Happy Wednesday to you. How are things?
Happy Wednesday. They're rolling.
They're rolling. We've got a pretty fun episode planned for you. Today, we have one of our favorite sponsors, Posh Franklin, located in downtown Franklin. We love bringing you local people. So, Posh brings together a unique collection of the best brands, the latest fashions, and signature finds to help you define and express your own unique local style. Posh Franklin, you can find them at Posh Franklin on Instagram or down on Main Street, downtown Franklin. Rachel, what is our question of the day?
Okay, this is a good one. Would you ever be a contestant on a show like Fear Factor?
Like Fear Factor or specifically Fear Factor?
Well, I don't know another show like Fear Factor, so let's just say Fear Factor. Would you ever do it?
No, 0% would I ever be on any show like that. No, no, I'm a scaredy cat. So I can stand on top of high things and enjoy views, but as soon as you tell me to jump off that high thing, I'm like, why would anybody ever do, or eating the gross things that they had to eat? No, I don't do that. No, that answer is no. How about you?
Yeah, that's a no. I could not lay in a coffin of cockroaches or like have to put my hands in a bag full of snakes or spiders. I'm going to go with no on eating anything that I'm not supposed to actually eat. And I don't know how I would handle heights. I don't love them. I don't know. I don't understand. Like, I don't feel like I have that kind of thing to prove. Other things, sure. Like me being able to lie in a bed of bugs crawling all over me is not something I care about. Like, I don't care if you think I'm a wimp. Then sure, I'm a wimp. I'm not doing it. Not intentionally.
Bugs don't bother me, but snakes, spiders, scorpions, all of that, no. But yeah, laying on what'd you say, a coffin of cockroaches?
I
don't think that would truly bother me.
That's disgusting.
Oh, it's gross, but it's not. It's
cockroaches
not fearful.
Are dirty. They're dirty. Ew. Ugh. Okay, let's move on. That's gross. Challenge. I'm grossing myself out. Challenge of the week is to make a reel of why people should not be hesitant to buy or sell. So I think we have seen the rates hike. We're all watching that. But with every change comes opportunity. So realtors, it's your job to say, okay, it's not this anymore, but it's still this. And with people being hesitant to put their homes on the market because they're afraid of not making a profit, that inventory problem that we've had actually kind of perpetuates. It's like it's doing it to itself now, because if you're afraid to list because of a buyer not giving an offer, then there's actually opportunity there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That would be your turn to say, yeah,
I was nodding along.
They can't see you nodding. Anyway, post that reel. You guys are probably way more eloquent than I am. So there you go. Okay. Speaking of selling. So we don't have to get too far into the real estate world before we start hearing about Ninja Selling. It's a resource that has impacted so many agents, and you can see the success through agents all across the country. And so Rachel and I are both big readers, and so we decided to pick up the book and see what secrets they might have. And so while we're not going to divulge any of their secrets or processes, perhaps, but we definitely can talk about some methodologies that they have. Ninja does a really, really great job at creating some very simple, easy to follow processes. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I think what they do really well is lean into relational equity. So there are, and really what we mean by that is the intentionality of
building relationships or holding relationships, and the practices on how to do that. So I think a lot of this will feel like pretty natural to a lot of people. Like if you're a people person, then a lot of this is probably going to be like, oh, I do that. And that's great. And I think they're just helping you recognize it maybe more than telling you what to do. But also if you are new and trying to start your real estate business, I think this is a good book / practice to adopt. But if you've been doing it for a while, it just might be food for thought. Like, have I done this well? Is there something that I can learn from this to maybe shift a little to do better? All those things. So that being said, I think this is something you and I have harped on many a time.
Many a time. I think what you said there is good. I'm going to tweak it for our notes.
No.
But intentional relationship practices. That's what I think they do really, really well. So how can we lean into our intentional relationship practices? So number one, intentionality. We harp on this all the time. We don't want to skate through life, but if you've got a goal that you want to obtain, then you need to set intentional steps in order to reach that goal. And so, what kind of intentional movement is needed to accomplish any goal? Things just don't happen, right? So, you've heard the quote that it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. There's a Ryan Holiday quote that says, if you want momentum, you have to create it for yourself right now by getting up and starting right now. And my favorite, Stephen King, he's got one that says, I only write when I'm inspired. Luckily, I'm inspired every morning at 8 a.m. And so it's this idea of how can you be intentional about all of your life, specifically real estate, which is what Ninja would say, but just how can you be intentional about your everyday tasks? If we're going to skate through life, that's not a life I necessarily want to be a part of.
Agreed. I think what they also, in this same conversation, they would say, it's not this thing that it's not about doing one thing that's going to generate one outcome. It's about doing a lot of things that then generate outcomes down the road. It's very much the long game process.
That's right.
But really what it points back to is caring about people. So in that, it's really about relationships.
Oh, point number two.
Point number
relationships.
2. Look at that. Would you look at that?
Segue.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about relationships a lot on this podcast as well, but life is about the people you meet, the friends that you have. It's rarely about how much money you have or how hard you worked or how busy you were all the time. Everybody says that they're busy. Like that was a badge of honor for a while. And I think that's silly. Like we can all be busy. Maybe you're just really bad at managing your time. And so let's talk about relationships. The rich memories that you make with your friends, those are what you go back to, right? So those are the things that give you life again. How can we intentionally build relationships? How can we intentionally meet more people, not just for the sake of the deal or maybe the checklist that Ninja gives us, but like, how can you truly care about the people that you meet?
Yeah. I think there's an undercurrent here that maybe is not even, I'm trying to think about the book and what it said. It's not really overtly stated in the book, but I think what this really boils down to is how you serve people without an expectation attached. Yeah, so good. I think if you're really great at serving people, eventually that will pay off, but that's not the reason you do it. You do it because you want to create a better place and a better world. And that starts with all of us doing better things. So, it's not, like you said, it's about a connection, and you really can't create connections if you're only nice because you expect something in return.
Mm-hmm. That's fake. So it's a fake relationship. And
people can see through that. And no one wants to feel like they're on the using side of something, like you only like me because you want me to do this for you 3 months from now. No, like no one likes to be on the receiving end of that.
In the production space, we often would say authenticity or vulnerability is significantly better than perfection. So everybody, whenever they get set in front of a camera, they want to be perfect. They want their outfit to be perfect. They want their makeup to be perfect. They want their script to be perfect. And you're like, no, I just want you to be real. Like that is going to drive more views than everything being perfect. So being authentic in your relationships is also going to prove to be a lot better.
Yeah,
you don't have to be perfect
agreed.
in this.
Speaking of being authentic.
Speaking of not being perfect, it's called practice, because let's practice at it. We aren't perfect. So a lot of things like this come natural to a lot of people. I love grabbing coffee with people, but this is something that I had to work at as well. So intentionally creating relationships. There will be we've talked about it on this podcast. I have had bad coffees. The very first time I met with Jeremy Mitchell was super awkward, and I didn't know how to hold a meeting. And I just kind of sat there and stared at him, and I didn't know what questions to even ask him. And so I could have thrown in the towel after that meeting and said, I don't want to do this ever again. But you know what? That one meeting led to another meeting, which led to another meeting, and so on. And now I love it. I love meeting with people, getting to know them. And it's something that, man, I still sit across the table from people and I'm like, I don't have another question. Like, I don't know and then maybe that's when they start asking me questions, and it's a conversation. It's not something it's not an interview. I'm just having coffee. I'm just having coffee with a friend.
Ninja actually talks about questions. So there's a section in the book that talks about how to ask questions well, and really, without giving away the answer, this is kind of common sense. It's really about how you listen. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's something we all really have to practice doing well, is being a good listener. So I think when you're a good listener, those questions start to come naturally because, again, your heart posture is caring instead of just trying to get information. It's about how you listen well and respond. That's right. But Ninja does a really good job, I think, of coaching, at least within the book. There is a section in which they help coach you through some of those scenarios. So it's if you're sitting down or if you're meeting a person you haven't known well or at all, then here's how you can start that conversation, what you should listen for and how you can respond. And if it's someone you've known for a while, here's how you might handle a conversation like that. Here's how you really start building relationships in that way. So I think overall, it's a good book. And their methodology, I think it is helpful. I see why people find it so helpful.
Yeah. So even just some of this sounds super intimidating. I would recommend that you pick up the book. Ninja Selling does have some really great step-by-step processes that you don't have to think about. Like you can just go, oh, step 1, step 2, step 3. I don't have to recreate this for myself. They give you questions to ask, they processes to follow up with. I mean, it is super helpful. Highly recommend Ninja Selling.
Yeah. It seems pretty foolproof.
It does.
And fairly easy to implement. Like, I don't think you don't have to have decades of experience in order to take away a lot from that and start making changes. And it's not something that has to be done in like a super significant way. So it's easy to like start incorporating some of those things in your day to day instead of being like, oh, I have to find a week where I can do a complete overhaul of the whole way I do business. No, that's really actually what they're saying not to do is they're saying right. Start doing these things, fit this into your day to day, so that this change that we're asking you to make is sustainable. It's kind of like, oh, I'm going to try to lose 10 pounds before this photo shoot so I can fit into this one dress. No, like you're going to starve yourself for 4 days and then your kids are going to order pizza and you're like, yeah, I don't care about fitting into the dress. Like that's what they're saying. Don't do that. Like start eating healthily 80% of the time. And then you don't have to worry about that. That's the same concept. It's start doing these little things to make a big difference 6 months from now versus trying to make that change overnight.
That illustration really hit home with me. So, and that one was.
The next time you try to fit into a dress.
Oh, goodness gracious. What
Make
is
it black or navy blue. It hides all the
our local find of the week. I have a story for us.
I see this and I want to know this story. I don't know that I know it.
So
maybe I do.
Tamaco Tacos is a local taqueria, taco eatery here in Nashville.
It's delicious. That's all you need to know.
Okay, so you were there for this story.
Yeah. Oh, was I? I think I found this place. Thank you very much.
So I know that Kangaroo Roost definitely has posted about it, and that is how I learned about it. And so we went with some other friends, and we went to this taco place. And I'm a Texan. I grew up eating tacos, and I don't know that I'd ever eaten a churro.
Which is shocking.
Good gosh. Let me tell you, it's go
like a fried cinnamon roll.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I have now since been back to Tamaco, and I just get their churros at this point. They're delicious. So here's where it gets fun. Yesterday we decided to go to Sonic, and they have right now a churro milkshake. And I was like, oh, I'm in for this. It's like a cinnamon roll milkshake. Yeah.
I'm skeptical.
Why would we not?
I'm skeptical of that.
I would argue that you should eat local and just go to Tamaco and get their churros.
That was a very kind way of saying you didn't like the milkshake.
It was a little gritty. It was tasty. Just the texture was wrong.
So it was more like a blizzard. Like they ground up churros in there?
Nope. It was just
or is it just the cinnamon that made it gritty? It was
cinnamon and sugar. Yeah. Cinnamon and like the sugar crystals were big. And so it was a little crunchy is not the right word, but somewhere in that world. Yeah. So
Tamaco needs to be our next taco lunch again. I think it's okay for us to revisit Tamaco.
It's really good.
I'm going to make that happen.
Again,
okay.
Churros.
Yeah, churros. Everything was good there.
Yeah.
They had good margaritas. They had good food.
Good tacos.
It wasn't like it was busy, but not so crowded that you couldn't sit and eat and enjoy your meal. I mean, like, what's not to like? Now I'm hungry.
You're welcome.
I did not eat a churro last time we were there.
Oh, that was a mistake.
I know. Don't they have chocolate churros there too?
Yeah, so they have chocolate sauce that you dip it into. Okay. I did that with another friend, and there's no need for that. It's like cinnamon and chocolate, and you're like,
it's like the Italian place with the little those little donut-like things. I didn't like the sauce. Whatever it was in Chapel Hill. I can't remember the name. We'll get back to you on that, people. It's good. The food was good.
Oh, the beignet things?
Yeah, but they're Italian, so they're not beignets because that's French. But basically, all those European pastries.
So if you're in the mood for local flair, check out Posh Franklin, downtown Franklin on Main Street. They're our sponsor again this week, and we have a discount code for you, our listeners.
We do. It's first month spelled out in the numbers 50. So first month 50. When you check out on kangaroos.com, gets you half off your first month subscription.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You would rate and review this podcast. It helps get the word out to all of your friends and all of our friends. This is Kangaroo Roost, the podcast. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.